What would you bet your life on? What are you so passionate about that you could bet your life on? I used to think I could bet my life on my career. One day, I showed up to work, and my boss invited me to the conference room. I got into the room, and there was a guy from HR seated to the left with a document in front of him. My boss sat in the chair directly facing the HR guy. They invited me to sit in the chair at the head of the table. When I prayed to the Lord to prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies, I don't ask for a table in the conference room. So there I sat, drenched in the silence of suspense. And out of the intensity of his emotions, my boss broke the news. We will not be needing your position on the team anymore. Management has decided to let you go. For a second, I thought he meant to say, go on an all-expenses-paid trip. But then reality sank in. I had been fired. I switched gears to the HR guy and asked, why? He responded, your performance is good. We are doing this because of budget cuts. My boss excused himself from the room. He later came back with my bag. He politely tossed the bag on the floor, and with a mischievous smile on his face, he said, bye now, buddy. You would have thought he could have at least used my name. I had only been on the job 4 months. I had no idea where my next paycheck would come from. We were maxed out on our credit cards. We were 1 month behind all our bills. My wife was back in school full-time for a career change. We have 4 children. Our youngest daughter, Audrey, was only 5 months old and was in and out of the hospital. The thoughts of losing coverage for her prescription medications scared me to death. After reading my severance package, the HR guy escorted me out of the conference room. The walk down the hallway into the open office was a walk of shame. I couldn't help but notice how everyone in the office seemed to focus on their laptops. It was clear. They all knew I had been fired even before I was invited into that conference room. I walked over to the boss, who was by this time seated in the conference room, in the open office. We shook hands. I said my last goodbye and thanked him for everything. The HR guy escorted me out of the office and shut the door behind me. It felt like I had been shot out of a career that took me 15 years to build. On my way home, I cried like I had never cried before. A couple of months later, that position was re-advertised. So they lied. I knew the real reason why I was fired. Barely 1 month after I got hired, that same boss had invited me to the very same conference room. He said, I need you to be less introverted. We don't really like anyone who is not a cultural fit. I remember getting home that day and writing hundreds of jokes and small talk that could help me integrate myself. All the small talk I tried was returned with a blank stare. Every joke I tried came back with awkward silence. And every group I joined in on the conversation meant everyone had to go silent. It was the worst period of my life. One day, I went into the office and I told my boss, how can I be present? How can I be in the team? And he just tried to encourage me and said, just keep trying. One day, I came back into the office and I just felt tired. And I needed to move on. I was at the end of the road. Barely 1 month after that episode, it was clear that I had to leave. And then there was no way out. It was the worst period of my life. From my days in elementary school, I've always felt threatened by unwritten rules. I remember coming home one day from school and crying to my father. I had failed a math test because I could not apply a cross-multiplication formula to prove to my teacher how I came by the correct answer. What my father told me that day remains one of the most important lessons I've learned in life. He said, do what everyone else does, but if you have a really good reason to vary, then have the courage to stand out and damn the consequences. Which brings me to the crux of the issue. Each one of us have got a unique path and purpose in life. It's like no one else's. If social norms or the rules of math and sciences or natural laws limits me, limits you, why should we conform to them? I ask the question again. What would you bet your life on? For me, since I got fired, I've had to give up on my career in search of what set my soul on fire. The courage to market my own business has been a blessing. But much more than that, it has given me the freedom to search for my purpose in life. I am not where I want to be, but I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Right here on this stage, I can bet my life on this stage. To those in leadership positions, hearing the sound of my voice, join me to propose a universal blueprint of ethical leadership. A blueprint which seeks to emphasize the means more than the ends, the journey more than the destination, and values more than materials. To those who feel constrained by norms, join me to propose a new approach to life's blueprint. A blueprint which seeks to remind us that no matter how the world treats us, they cannot rob us of the potent weapon that dwells on our inside, the gift of freedom. Thank you.